Today I am continuing on my reading of the book, My Conversation with the Poor Souls, all the visits of the poor souls to Princess Eugenie. And they have been some powerful stories. Now, if they don't make sense to you, some of them started in previous videos, because as I read from her diary, I find that some of them may have started appearing to her last year and they continue to appear now. And I am reading of particular souls. And I will say at the beginning of this video, what I say at the end of some of them is that I am learning that the souls are getting prettier or less hideous or more observable, or going from unable to speak to being able to speak and answer some questions. And we are witnessing this process of purification while she prays and has masses set for them. So it's very intriguing. You might want to get yourself a copy of this book. It's called My Conversations with the Poor Souls. But if you can't get a copy, because I've seen from people around the world who said to me that they can't, I am here to read it for you. Today I start with a chapter entitled Catherine. October 27th, 1923. I can now clearly see a woman, albeit still dimly. She's very restless. October 28th, the woman is disgusting. Especially her mouth is all swollen and disgusting. She looks bitterly angry, wrapped in a gray rag. October 29th, I found her in my room in the evening. Her eyes haunt me. She cannot speak. October 30th, she came just as I was getting up. I said, "Go away, you're bothering me." She didn't care. Then I prayed the morning prayer with her and she left. I'm afraid of her. She disgusts me. I might be hard on her. Where's my charity? I get more and more depressed by these things when I have to be with people all day and can't think for myself. I am then divided, the soul in the other world that is, busy with it. And the other world I have to feign interest in, which I don't have at all. This conflict makes me tired and I have less courage. October 31st. A dreadful night. She was there twice, always long. She leans against the wall and looks at me cheekily with a very hideous expression. She doesn't react to anything, but remains calm when she prays. Her mouth is hideous, a big red bulge and shaggy black hair. She's always unspeakably creepy. November 1st, I fought with her half the night, not to get too close to me. But she doesn't have any obstacles. I then threaten not to pray for her anymore if she bothers me like that, and then she's gone. November 2nd, All Souls Day. It was the worst night I've had. The figure is like a fury. I didn't even know what to do. I ran out of the room, but I have to carry it alone. I don't want to wake anyone up. She followed me into the hallway, so I'm back again. I tried to pray, but very badly, because the fear is too great. She keeps coming so close to me, it's hard to bear. There's something so terrifying about her that I cannot, with the best will in the world, describe it. She stayed with me from 11 a.m. to 5 a.m., nearly an entire day. I was very cowardly. November 3rd, she didn't come until 5 a.m., so I had a better night. I prayed with her right away and didn't look at her when her head was suddenly very close to me, and I heard her mumble something incomprehensible. I said, "Do you want me to pray for you again? Go far away from me. I can't bear to be near you." Then she screamed loudly and was gone. Now my heartlessness makes me very sad, because I decided to hurt her. November 4th, I'm very glad she forgave me and was back. She moved that hideous mouth, but I heard nothing. I told her, "If I can really help you, give me a sign and come wake me up at 5 a.m. Then I want to do a lot more for you." Then I slept very well. At 5 o'clock sharp, I heard a scream and she was next to me. How happy that made me. Now I want to endure everything again. The good old 11 were back on the mountain. I'm not even scared of them anymore. And the night can almost always be seen in the church. November 5th, very scary night because she was there so often and so restless. I asked her a lot with no answer. Suddenly she pounced on me and breathed something in my ear. I couldn't understand it. When I told her that, she sobbed heartbreakingly. I promised her a lot, and then she left. November 6th, she came to my room in the evening while the prayer bell was ringing. I went to the holy water font and waited. She went to the holy water font and waited for me there. I gave it to her. Then she was gone, but came back in the night. It's much clearer, and my courage is growing again. I have found that if I make many sacrifices of will, that must help her too. For these days, she's kinder. I pay attention to everything now. So far, I've avoided writing all these things, but since it's desired, I do it. There's something I have to say. In the middle of work, or even when I'm with the others, something comes over me that I'm not clear about. It's the highest feeling of happiness, emerging into something else, a sense of closeness to God. It cannot be described. I can't say when that will come over me, often when I'm not even thinking about God. I've had this for a very long time, but now that it's increasing, it might be good to have an acquaintance. I've always hated extravagant things, but now I just have to go along with what comes over me, and I urgently ask that someone tell me what is wrong in me. My prayer life has also changed. Whether that's better or worse, I don't know. It is more of a sinking into infinity without formulating prayers. I'm just in my nothingness before the good Lord. November 7th, the stranger came very close to me, and again she whispered something in my ear, but unfortunately I didn't understand anything. I can see her clothes now, late 16th century, a lady knight. I've lost the terrible fear. It is always incomprehensible to me that I feel as soon as a spirit is within me, as soon as the spirit is with me. Even when I'm awake in the dark without hearing anything, I'm aware that I'm no longer alone. I have never been wrong. November 8th, she was with me most of the night, very calm. I found a new prayer that she obviously likes. Her gaze became much friendlier, but I don't dare fall asleep again in her presence. November 10th, she whispered in my ear again. It could mean peaceless, but I can't say for sure. I asked her and she shook her head sadly. The night was present throughout the high mass. It is already the second time on Sunday, so maybe it has something to do with the cross particle. She was with me during the day. November 12th, finally, she can talk. Her name is Catherine. Otherwise, she was really great again, but kept saying peaceless, peaceless, and walked around. She hasn't replied to anything, but I hope to hear more from her. I also saw the 11 again. On November 13th, Catherine was there late. Started different prayers to see which one she wants. She shook her head at all of them until I came back to a prayer which I noticed before that she liked. For the first time, a ghost knelt down next to me, triggering a very special feeling. Then I asked, "Have you lived here in the castle?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Are you buried here?" She said, "No." For other questions, she remained silent. November 14th, I experienced something very special. I was very tired and had bad intentions to sleep in and not go to church. I dreamed of a poor woman who kept asking, and I didn't give her anything. I woke up with a start, and Catherine was standing in front of my bed and with pleading hands. I said, "Thank you for waking me up. How did you know my thoughts?" She said, "I am connected to you." I said, "By what?" No answer. She said, "Do you still want me to make sacrifices? Or do you still want to make sacrifices?" And I said, "Yes." "What else should I do for you?" She said, "Give me peace." I said, "How can I do that?" She said, "Through love." The poor souls, now I will take good care of them. Unfortunately, I still think too much about my comfort. I could make so much sacrifice if it wasn't for that. If I were only allowed to live only for the spirits, then it would be easier, but I have to live with people, and sometimes my physical strength just isn't enough. It's a relief for me to write all of this, as I'm not yet able to do without human comfort, and mostly it is a reassurance that someone is watching over me. I always want to keep quiet about things that particularly concern me, but if you want a picture to be completely accurate, you can't omit any color. And now I do it in obedience. There seems to be some smug thoughts creeping in as I write. So I figure, why don't other people feel the same way? This would be better. I am now forced to think a little more about myself, so the counterweight will find itself. November 15th, she was there for a long time without speaking. If the mouth weren't so repulsive, she wouldn't be awkward at all. I think she will become even more forthcoming. I saw the 11 and the night. I saw old Heinz for the second time in the garden. He looks terrible. How can I help so many? When I was sitting with everyone during the day, Catherine was suddenly there across from me and motioned for me to come, but I couldn't do anything. I was happy that I saw so much because I had asked the dear God at Holy Mass to send me quite a lot today if this service pleases him. Now I'm calmed down. That was a nice name day present. November 16th, Catherine came in at 1 a.m. I prayed with her for a long time, and then I asked, "Can you tell me what's on your mouth?" She said, "Do you see that?" I said, "Yes." "Tell me, why is it like that?" And she said, "I've always divided people." Then she began to sob terribly. I said, "I'm sorry for you. Do you have to suffer for that for a long time?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Will it help if you come to me?" She said, "Yes." "How?" "Peace." I said, "Express yourself more clearly." She said, "You give me peace." And I said, "But how can I do that?" Then she came very close and said something in my ear. I couldn't understand it, and then she was gone. It's strange how time flies with the poor. When she came, it was a little after 1 a.m. on my watch, and when she left, it was 4:30. I thought it was half an hour at most. She's beautifully dressed with a long gold chain. If only I could draw. She's not old, maybe 40. I hope she comes back. I almost love her. November 17th, she's now coming to see me in other rooms as well. She was seen 9 times. November 19th, 2 days of complete rest. Very pleasant. November 20th, Catherine was with me almost the whole night. Very calm. Just standing there like that. Heinz came too, who looks horrible, clearly recognizable. He is very restless and moans terribly. I asked Catherine, "Do you see the poor soul standing with you by my side?" She said, "No." I said, "Why not?" She said, "Because I'm only connected to you." Then she said something I didn't understand. And I said, "Will you come to see me often?" She said, "If I may." And I said, "Who allows you?" She said, "Mercy." Then she was gone. I saw the knight in the church in the afternoon. I went to him to ask him. He doesn't move. He keeps on praying. I felt his armor. It was hard. It is not an old man. He has long blonde hair. November 21st, Heinz was there for a very long time, looking restless and angry. He keeps whimpering. Praying makes him even more restless, almost angry. Catherine came towards morning. I found it very pleasant not to be alone with Heinz anymore. Then she began her dear prayer of her own accord, and that made me cry. I quite regretted still thinking about myself. Heinz stood by. The difference between the two is great, like shadow and light, like anger and mildness. Catherine has changed completely. I said, "Are you feeling better?" And she said, "I see the clarity." I said, can I now devote myself entirely to the other poor souls? She said, don't leave me yet. Then both were gone. If only I could summon up more of myself to help them. I could fast even more, but then I can no longer satisfy everyone else. I no longer have the strength to hide during the day what I suffer at night. November 22nd. I have the greatest desire to cross out what I wrote yesterday, but I don't do it so that people know how unloving and cowardly I am. How could I doubt that God will give me the strength? Both were back. Hines dislikes prayer, which shows on his face, but I don't worry about it. I pray. I noticed a change in Catherine's mouth. She also smiles sometimes. I said, tell me when you died. She said, Hornung, 1680. I said, where are you buried? She said, in Kempton. I said, why is your soul here? She said, I brought discord. Do you perhaps know Barbara? She said, yes. I said, tell me more. And then she was gone. Hines must be able to see her because he came very close to her when she talked. November 24th. The two were there for a long time, but nothing to do with them. I'm very happy when Catherine is there with Hines. Then it's not so terrible. November 25th, Hines was there alone. He was so boisterous that I always thought he would fall into my bathroom. I said, do you have something to tell me? Then he went wild, ran away, came back, and moaned horribly. It was not pleasant. November 26th, the two again. I said to Catherine, I thought your namesake redeemed you because you weren't there yesterday. Then she said, Catherine of Siena? So snappy, I almost laughed. November 27th, I was not well. Could not sleep, waiting for my friends. Nothing happened like it always does when I'm in pain. This consideration is too strange. November 28th, pain again, without ghosts. November 29th, Hines was there alone. Praying and asking annoys him. November 30th, Catherine was already waiting for me when I went to bed. Night prayer with her. Then I said, why haven't you come for so long? She said, you gave me a lot. Look here. She pointed to her mouth. Everything abominable is gone. I cannot describe the feeling of joy about it. I said, don't you have to suffer so much anymore? She said, no. I said, tell me, when can I best help you? She said, if you don't sin. I said, I can't do that yet. She whispered something in my ear again. Unfortunately, I can't understand it. It may have been union or opinion. Then she was gone. Not to sin. Ugh, if only I could. Sometimes everything bubbles up in me with anger, and I'm so wrong because I don't let it show. I think that's a good place to stop for now. It's funny how Catherine used to scare her, and she found her disgusting and her mouth and all that, but and how the punishments fit the crimes of when we were alive. She divided people with her mouth, and her mouth had to suffer. Our God is not just a merciful God, he is a just God. So every repentance has to be made for the sins, the words we speak, the immodesty, if we show our cleavage, if we have lustful thoughts, if we steal a loaf of bread, if we, steal a pad of paper at work or a pen, everything. That's a lot of suffering to do in purgatory. Let's do our best to live lives that are holy and complete and pure. Our suffering in purgatory will be so much less. But it is beautiful to see how Catherine, little by little, is becoming her friend. And they love to pray together. And specific prayers actually are the ones that heal specific people. So I covet your thoughts. I'm Dr. Christine Bacon. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, and contribute if you feel so inclined to help my ministry. I'm Dr. Christine Bacon. Thanks for watching this Bacon Bit. And as always, remember to live your life sunny side up.